Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. My name's Scotty Carlisle, and we are ready to move. The Move Podcast. Today we have a special guest. I met him on a business, I guess his new business venture, and I started asking him questions just about himself, and it kind of blew me away. So, I was like, hey, listen, dude, I got to get you on this podcast because you are out doing some real interesting stuff, and I feel like your story needs to be told. So he agreed to come over here to the podcast, and I guess without further ado, your name, Glen Rineer.
Correct.
And Glen Rineer has some very interesting attributes, but you'll see as you listen in. So if you're driving on the freeway or if you're parked on the freeway, turn up the volume just a little bit, kick back, and enjoy the story that we're about to unfold. So, Glen, could you introduce yourself? Maybe give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my name is Glen Rineer. I was born deaf. I run several businesses. I do crypto mining. I do drone parachutes, and I have a machine shop as well. And my latest adventure is doing digital boards for restaurants. And yeah.
So anybody out there listening, okay, podcast is over. Get your ass up. You got nothing to complain about. Go to work. It was interesting talking to you and listening to some of your background. And when you came in here, we were talking. So you used to wrestle too.
Yes.
So that's probably a good indicator of why you're, I guess, so active. I feel like a lot of the people that I've met in life that were wrestlers, they're hustlers. They're out there and they're pushing and they're moving and they're fighting.
I think the big reason is wrestling was one of the few sports where it's all on you. If you mess up, it's all on you. It's not your teammates. Like football, you can just blame it on the rest of your team. Wrestling, it's all about how you can do better and how you can do the best you can do. So yeah. I really think that's the big thing that I learned growing up.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you get your ass kicked sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that is a very humbling experience. And when you understand that you don't have everything that you need to, and you're not as good as you think you are, and in order for you to get to a place of respect, there's a lot of work that you have to put in order to get to that spot.
Even like a state champion wrestlers, they would think that they were the best ones, and guess what? The head coach would go in and wrestle them just to kind of keep them in that spot. So they were always trying to do it better and better.
Yep. I like it.
And so that's actually what wrestling is. It only seems like the only sport where you can actually wrestle your coaches.
Yeah.
Like in football, you can't have your head coach putting his football pads and trying to go against you. But wrestling's one of those things where it's one-on-one attention. You improve your skills that way.
So now you wrestled in high school?
I wrestled from the time I was 10 throughout high school. Yes.
Oh wow! So you wrestled many years.
Yes, many years, and then I've also played football from the time I was 7, all the way through high school.
So now, I want to know, and I'm sure most people, that are listening to this, would like to know what types of challenges that you faced when you were growing up, and you didn't have hearing like other kids did. What was your, how did you cope? What kind of instances did you have to go through?
Do you want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah.
As far as, so I was born, obviously I was born deaf, and my parents didn't find out until I was about a year and a half. And the way that they found out was my older brother, mentioned, I think my brother's deaf. My parents were like, no. And so my parents were cleaning my room one day, and I just woke up from the bed, and I was calling for them. And my parents were like, we're right here, right behind me. And I still didn't respond. So that's when they just realized, you know what, we need to go take him to the doctor. Took me to the doctor, and we ended up getting hearing aids, a couple weeks later. And one of the interesting things about the first time I heard was my mom took me to the grocery store, and obviously, I'm deaf and I'm hearing for the first time, and I'm just babbling like a little baby as a 2-year-old, and a stranger came up and it's like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest baby. And my mom's like, this is actually the first time he's hearing somebody. And she was like, oh, so am I the first stranger that he's hearing? And she's like, yes.
Whoa.
And so that person was just like, I'm so happy to be around you. That's really cool. And so that's one of the first stories that my mom had mentioned to me. Now, as far as like, I went to a deaf school from the time I was 3 to about 4 years old, and I wasn't speaking. I was just babbling a bit along. And so they were considering taking me to a sign language school because I wasn't going to start talking. They were like, okay, he's not talking. Maybe we need to get him communicating with his hands. And just right before they were going to transfer me, I started talking. I thank God for that one because the sign language, there's nothing against them, but they're very like separated away from the world. And that's not my personality. I like to be around people, communicating with people, even though it's a huge challenge for me. Especially right now, everybody's wearing the mask, so I can't read the lips. So instead of reading the lips, I'm trying to read their cheekbones and their facial expressions and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And so that's one of the challenges I'm having right now. Growing up, the challenges were, constantly being made fun of. But my parents, my siblings kind of helped, teach me to ignore those. They're just trying to put you down because they're jealous of you. They're jealous of my hearing loss. I'm like, at the time, I'm like, no, they're not. They're not jealous of my hearing loss. But if you think about it, they're jealous of the success that I had. With all the difficulties that I had growing up, they're jealous of the success that I had. And just, always pushing past those, not being a victim of bullying. That was one thing my parents made sure to never be a victim of that.
So did you have any scenarios in your life that when you were bullied that you can remember? Or
yeah, 100%. But it was just look past them. If they tried to keep pushing me down, my parents told me to stand up. So I did get in several fights, but nothing where I was being a bad kid. It was, my parents always thought it was I was standing up for myself. And so that's how I grew up.
Did you notice when you stood up that it changed how the bullies act towards you?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then, from elementary school it was kind of bad, and then as I started playing football, people started realizing that's how you get the best friend. The people that I'm around now are the ones that stood up for me when I was a kid. They're some of my best friends now. It was only one person on each football team that would do that. So then I would just gravitate towards them, and now we're good friends, we can talk. But everybody else that was just like, oh, you think you're you're so good at football, and to try to talk me down, and then when we get on the field, guess what? I would have to lay him out. Just anytime we had to go against each other, but just to kind of prove to everybody, hey, I'm a person just like you. Just because I talk funny doesn't mean you can put me down. So yeah, that. And also, being deaf has like really humbled me, 100%. It taught me to not take when somebody says you can't do that or you can't do this because of this. That doesn't stop me. That actually makes me go after that problem even more. So a lot of people think that I'm like trying to go around rules and stuff like that, but it's just more like I want to know why I can't do that one scenario, and I'll figure out the solution. And a lot of people get frustrated with me because I do, figure out how to go around stuff. And it's just my personality, just from growing up, and just always been told now.
And sometimes they feel embarrassed because what they told you is not true, and then they had to check themselves, and nobody likes to do that.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to do that.
And that's actually a lot of my friends, they come up to me and ask me, hey, should I start a business? Should I do this? And that's one of the hardest things to tell people, like, because I want to tell them, 100%, but I don't want to make them make a poor decision on their finances and stuff like that. So it's always, so I always explain to them like how I started a business. Like I don't, the smart way to start a business is, let's say you're working for an employee and you start your other business on the side. You try to get 75% of your revenue coming from your new business before you quit your other job. to be on the safe side. But yeah, here I am. I was working a full-time job and a salary, and I decided, hey, I just quit and said, I'm going to start flying helicopters with cameras on them. This was, back in 2010. So a lot of people thought I was flying a toy helicopter. It was a toy, not a drone, with a camera on it. And everybody thought that was just, not everybody, but a lot of people were like concerned, like, you just quit your job, you're going to do this. This is not, this is a fantasy that you just have.
Now, I had an experience. The first time I saw somebody actually fly a helicopter, I don't know, it was probably like that, maybe that big, maybe a little bit bigger. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought it was going to, kind of go like a drone, how you see a drone. And it looked like a damn dragonfly. This guy had it going, and it would come upside down and haul ass. And all of a sudden you would see it, and I was trying to catch it and keep it. I mean, the guy was a really good pilot, but I had never before that seen, and he also had an octocopter drone.
Yeah.
So he played with a lot of that stuff, but it was amazing. I'd never seen anything like that before. So you fly that similar helicopter?
Yeah, when I first started off, and obviously I figured out right away that was not the best way to do it with a traditional helicopter. So I had started researching drones, and at the same time I was researching drones, I was figuring out how to build them. And then, so the aerial photography, I did that for maybe a year, and then I got into building custom drones for customers. So I was building like for the Red Epic camera system for like the film industry, and so then I was like, that started picking up. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna build custom drones. It was a company called UAV Rotor King, was the company name, and we did that for about 5 years. And I even did a couple custom projects for military customers that were testing out the gimbal systems for like the Predator drone, stuff like that. So they wanted to test out the camera systems before they shipped them out to the clients.
Now, hold on, the Predator drone.
Is that the one of the first drones that they came out with? I'm trying to think what it
was. It DJI or was it?
No, this is like military.
Oh, like
this was like military,
like serious shit.
Yeah.
Drone, not like
this was,
not like Bobby's playing around in his backyard drone.
Yeah. I think the cheapest camera system that they offered, that I was working with the company, they offered was like $225,000.
Oh goodness!
And so they were concerned about the camera system because I sold them a drone, and one of their employees was flying the drone and testing out the gimbal system, and they crashed it. And so they called me up and said, hey, one of our employees crashed it. Can you fix the drone? But we need a parachute system for this thing. And I did some research on that. Couldn't find anybody that drew parachutes. So then I said, you know what, I'll design a parachute system for them. And so then I started manufacturing parachute systems.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What material did you use for that?
Polycarbonate, carbon fiber, polypropylene, plastic. So when we went to go build our first production model, the cost was like $25,000 for the first mold. And so I decided, you know what, well, I think we can buy a machine. And people were saying, you can't make a mold. That's a whole nother technology. It's not just machining. It's really hard. And I said to myself, I was like, I think I got the team to do it myself. And so we bought the first milling machine, and then we made our first mold. It took, probably 6 months by the time we said we were going to do it. And so we made our first mold, and then we made our first injection machine. We actually poured plastic in a hopper.
Injection machine?
Yeah. And so that's what the molten plastic goes and makes goes inside the mold. And then you can pop the part out, and then you have a finished product. Then you can make, thousands of them in a day. And so that's how we got into machining at the same time, because it was just, oh, we can't do that. Oh, I think I can do it. Yeah. So then, and then we also make, we have 3 different models that we make for parachute sizes. They go from 4 pounds all the way up to 25 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID happened.
Hold on. Now, when it's 25 pounds, is that is that how heavy something can?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so it can carry a 25-pound. All right.
Yeah, it can protect the 25-pound payload.
Got it.
That's the idea. So then, obviously, when COVID happened, when the mandate came out at first and said we can't work and all that stuff, so I decided, to keep my guys working, we were going to get into, selling masks or, giving masks away and just because my guys need to keep working. So we did that. Then we actually manufactured, mass-produced the ear savers, and that's the, for the mask that were going around your ears.
Yeah.
Instead of going around your ears, it went around the strap.
Oh, got it. Ear savers. Okay.
So, we got into that. We did that. Then, COVID just really slowed everything down, like as far as supplies and all that stuff. And then I saw this opportunity to kind of get into selling ad space on the digital boards that we have at all the local restaurants. And I just thought that's how I met you. So I'm really glad, all the steps that God had kind of led me through this whole journey from, 11 years ago to today. So, yeah.
So you mentioned God.
Yes.
What is his role in your coping with situations? Like, what place would you give God or your spirituality or?
He's given me the gifts and talents, 100%. He's given me. A lot of people say, "Oh, is your hearing a disability?" And it's like, yes and no, because I see it as a disability according to the world, disability, but to me, it's a gift. It's a gift because it created my personality. It created who I am. If I didn't have my hearing loss, I think I would be a very arrogant person. It's really humbled me down, drastically. And yeah, I wouldn't be as driven, for sure.
Do you meditate?
Yes, I do.
So do you think, because a lot of meditation is kind of sitting with our thoughts and memories, and my question to you is, when you think of your memories and, auditory, like if I'm sitting and I'm going to meditate, a lot of inputs are constantly being, so what we hear, what we see, how we feel, we're constantly being bombarded with information overload. And so meditating is kind of a way of putting things in place so it's not like all at you at the same time. When you meditate, do you think that you have, is it beneficial or do you have memories of hearing?
Yeah, so as far as when I pray, I don't, it's not just to think of all the things that I've done, but almost more to kind of just ask God to kind of tell me, what do you want me to focus on? What do you want me to do? And just put me in the situations that you want me to be in, whether that's going to be a person that walks in front of me and just say, hey, I'm blessed by your smile. And then just you saying that helped that other person. Because a lot of people, they're bombarded by, you can't do this, you're not pretty enough, you're not cute enough, you're not good enough. So we need to try to always be encouraging to other people. Don't ever put other people down. 100%. I learned that, obviously I learned it from growing up. And as far as meditation, it's just it's really the relationship with God. Okay, God. That's not just I hear this voice. It's God said, hey, go do this for this person. And it'll just be a random thing. And you're like, what? Why am I going to do that? You go do that. And all of a sudden you hear a story that person touched somebody else. Or that person might be thinking about, suicide. You don't ever want to say no to God, because God will bless you beyond what you can imagine. And as far as everything I do 100%. I try to do what God wants me to do, because if I do it with my own plans, it's not going to work out that great. If I kind of listen to Him, and even though I don't understand it, like my businesses, I've had to shift from all the different businesses. At the time, it was why? Why is this happening? I do all this, and just focus on what you told me to do, and but then as you get out of those problems, you realize, oh, okay, he taught me this and this and this, taught me that to always be considerate of other people. I've had to learn the harder way, just being on the other end. So that's how I kind of.
I guess the whole point of this podcast, it's move, make a difference in other people's lives, offer up your time, talents, and gifts, find victory for the small things, and encourage others. And you're kind of you kind of encapsulate that, right? And so, to me, people that overcome some kind of adversity and even still, in spite of that, they go out of their way to help others. I feel like there is a boomerang effect, and whatever you put out comes back, right?
Oh yeah.
Karma. A lot of people talk about karma, whether you believe in it or not, however it is. It gets pretty deep, but I think that if you consider karma and you do something good for somebody, okay, cool, it's going to come back to you. But if you do something good for somebody when your ass is kicked, when you have no way out, when you feel helpless, when you are struggling, when you're hurting, when you're sad, when you're angry, when you're fill in the blank, and you're suffering from something, and you overstep that to help somebody in some way, I feel like there's a universal law at work that literally bends reality, and it helps something, and it might not come back from that direct source. It might go and then come back around in a way that you have no idea that you're going to be blessed. And I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it with other people, and I just want to share stories of people that do that and that help others, and that, because there's a reason that you're here. There's a reason, not here right now, but in your business, with your level of success, there's a reason. And a lot of that has to do with internal fortitude, When somebody's asking you if they should start a business, and you're like, you got to kind of size them up, like, well, yeah, because the ceiling is really high if you have your own business, right? Whereas if it's a job, like, your ceiling's here, you get your own business, the ceiling's here. But man, there's a trade-off. And do you have the intestinal fortitude? Do you have the strength? Do you have the resolve? Because you will get your ass kicked, just like in wrestling, you will get your ass kicked in business.
Oh, yeah.
And it might not be where you're expecting it from. It might be from your relationships. It might be financially. It might be from some kind of legislation. It might be from some kind of law. It might be from other people that you had brought in and had screwed you in some form or another. And I think most people that have started businesses have experienced that.
Oh yeah.
I know I have. I think almost all of those that I mentioned. So giving somebody advice to start a business, you got to be like, I'm not sure if you're cut out for it. Or, it's like
it's hard, because it's like, you have to somewhat be a little bit naive when you go into business. I think myself, I was very naive when I started it, but I had the willpower to do it. So you have to, do they have the willpower to go through, even though it might get tough? That's where you kind of like, you try to tell people like, yeah, this is how I did it. I just took the leap of faith and jumped into it, but I also knew that I could get through it. And if the person doesn't know that they can get through it, like, that's the willpower to get through a problem, then the first problem that they come across, they're like, oh, I quit, and I'm going to go back to working a regular job. And so that's kind of like, especially like if it's like my friends now, they're like, my age, 35, they have families, and it's like, it's kind of a little bit tougher if you were, single, or it was just you and your wife, and you guys had reserves that you can pull through and power through it. And it's kind of a tough one but I do try to help and try to just say, this is my situation. And a lot of people think it happened overnight. It did not happen overnight. It took what was it, 3 or 4 different businesses. Even the businesses before that, I've actually just started when I worked for an ad company at the same time. Those failed. Just I spent $5,000 just of my life savings at the time, and that was everything I had. So yeah, it's kind of a tricky situation to try to help people, but I just try to explain as much as I can, and then let them make the decision for themselves.
So your daily routine. So now you have hearing aid, or how are you coping? What things have you implemented to help you with your?
Okay, so obviously I read lips. Like I have 70% of my hearing loss is gone. And as far as like the letters, I don't actually hear a lot of the letters like C, the letters C and H or S. The doctor told me that I hear like of the letter sounds, I only hear 70% of the actual letter sounds of the alphabet. So you're probably thinking, well, what does that have to do? It's like a lot of times when people are talking to me and they start a sentence, the very first 2 words, I usually don't hear them. But as they start talking through the whole sentence or the paragraph that they're talking about, then my mind in my head is trying to figure out what were the first 2 words that they said based on what they said, after that. And then I understand what the whole question is. There's kind of the last time I went to the doctor, he kind of explained that to me. And it was like, I didn't realize that until he just mentioned that. Because I'm always thinking, what was the first word that he said? But then when they complete the whole sentence or paragraph, I kind of shuffle in my head, okay, this is what he said. So sometimes what happens is I'll get it wrong. The first 2 words can change the whole thing. So sometimes I'll get it wrong. People are like, no, I said this. And it's like, I'm sorry, no. So that's one of the interesting things that I have to try to, shuffle words out, trying to say, okay, what's the situation? What are the best words that fit in that situation that's happening right now? And just try to guess. And that's the thing. A lot of my friends that were hard of hearing, by the time they hit 10 or 11, they got embarrassed in front of their friend, for getting things wrong. So what they did is they started going into sign language. And the reason why they go to sign language is you got the sign language program. They're trying to like grow their communities. Their communities is what they consider. I don't know if you watched like Deaf U on Netflix.
Mm-mm.
If you want to understand like the community of sign language and how they are sometimes, I felt like that growing up. You watch that and you'll see that they try to say, oh, if you're deaf, you should be sign language, and you shouldn't associate with the real world. And what kind of frustrated my friends that could hear just as good as I can, they started getting embarrassed and insecure about their voices, that they started to stop talking and just went to their programs. And that's kind of it's kind of sad because I know that they can do more, but it's their choice, 100% their choices. As far as communications, I just always have to be on the right side of the room. My hearing, I have no hearing in my right ear, so my left ear still works good. So I always try to put people on this side of me. And then I read lips, so that's the big thing. My biggest challenges, I would say, are like big group meetings when you got multiple people trying to talk, because it's like a microphone in the middle of the room. You can't pick up the one person that's talking that you want to hear. So you gotta try to
focus. Yeah. Find first and then focus.
Yeah. And it's usually I don't like to go to places with big groups. I like to go 1 or 2 people, and then I just talk with them 100% of the time. Everybody else, I might just sound like I'm being rude, but it's just more I can communicate with them. I can kind of keep them in my hearing focus. And so, yeah.
So when I was in the Army, I drove a tank, and one time we were out in the field, and the driver's hatch is right under the gun.
Yeah.
And my night vision batteries died, and I'm supposed to drive. And I'm like, oh, shit, what do I do? And they're like, all right, go forward. And I'm like, ah! So literally took my night vision off, popped the hatch, and I'm trying to see as I'm driving, boom, 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 and it's like a echo chamber, right? So jacked me up, and my hearing, I'm deaf I'm deaf in a couple of different frequencies.
Yeah.
Usually if my wife's talking, is that what she has? So her frequency, I can't hear shit.
Yeah.
She gets mad at me, but I have a constant ringing in my ear as well.
Yeah, the tendinitis. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but it's always, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't bother me that much. Sometimes, like right now, I mean, it's just, it's like a, you know, like I hear it and it, it's just interesting, but it's not, you know, we have these things and we adjust and we do whatever it takes in order to overcome.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
But, you know, this life is hard. And, you know, I've struggled with a lot of different things, a lot of mental stress and a lot of, you know, it's hard sometimes not to get down on yourself. It's hard to look around and say, son of a, you know, why, or what is this, or I'm not good enough, or really feel emotionally unstable or down, I guess, you know. And I'm just wondering, so do you ever have those feelings? Or do you always...
Yeah. That's always like the world is like just telling you no, you know, you're not good enough. Of course, that's how it is right now. But as far as like what kind of keeps me going is like just pour into other people's lives. Like my wife, she's a principal of a private Christian school, and her thought is she never rejects anybody. So, and that is mainly like if they don't have the income, she doesn't tell somebody no. She'll make it happen, and she, you know, set up a program. So that's what, like having, you know, knowing that you hear the stories of how much you influence that kid by doing, you know, sponsorships and stuff like that. And so like what I do is I used to help with the robotics class. I would do the robotics and then the 3D printing class. So I did that for a couple of years for her school. Then I just been so busy the last couple of years. But like one of the things that we do is we take the kids on a trip. So like a bunch of the high schoolers, they're middle school through high school. We take them like on a cruise.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so my uncle actually sponsors that trip for all those kids to go on a cruise. So we'll go to like Washington D.C. Or like we went to the Grand Canyon. We went to this last week. We took all the kids to Big Bear. We took them to the beach, camped on the beach, camped in the mountains, and then camped at Joshua Tree. So
dang, man.
Yeah. So it's like when you go on these trips with the kids, they talk about their difficulties, like what they're going through, and it kind of like disconnect from the world, like social media, Facebook, and all that stuff that can have a negative impact on you sometimes. Just kind of like just speaking that you're worth it, you're amazing, what you're doing, you know, is awesome, and just trying to teach them how to not be selfish on their part, and trying to teach them how to pour into other people's lives. So like one of the things that we did is like made like joy sign out of wood, and that's actually the last podcast that we were supposed to do. I was doing that.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, I was machining out a bunch of wood joy signs, and so then the kids took them, they painted them, you know, and then they passed them out to people that they didn't even know. And so just kind of like teaching people, if you're selfish about your life, if you're always about yourself, it's more depressing. But if you pour into other people's lives, you start knowing that it's not all about you. It actually helps you out. It helped other people out, but it helps you out even more than you would even think.
So you got into robotics and 3D printing? I mean, I have another friend that's involved with robotics and 3D printing. Those kind of go hand in hand, I guess.
Yeah. It was just for the school, we just did a program. It was the Lego Mindstorm, how we kind of got into it, so the kids understand, you know, the building blocks, how code works, like the simplest form. And then some of the kids that wanted to, you know, go beyond that, they started doing coding. And so they can expand on that, and then just kind of really just the whole goal is to kind of show them all the different, you know, cool things that they can do. And then if they're interested, they can expand on that on their own. So like one kid, I think out of all the kids that I've done, it's like one kid's like, I think I might do mechanical engineering. It's like, okay, sweet, that's one person. Just if you if you just send them on, actually those sorry, if you just send them out in the field and say, hey, yeah, go to college and take mechanical engineering, you're gonna like it, and they don't see what it's supposed to be, what the fun side of it is, and they go get their college degree and they go, the very first job that they go to, it's just a machine shop. That is going to be the most boring job of their life. Machine shop will just say, hey, I want you to make these corrections on this drawing, and that's it. And then that kid's going to think, this is mechanical engineering, I hate this.
Yeah.
And so if you actually show them, hey, you can design your own products, you can design this, you can show them what they're doing, mechanical engineering with their 3D printers. They say, hey, I designed this all by myself and I actually have it in my hand. You can show them, don't let the world tell you, no, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And so actually I have a friend of mine, he went to Arizona University, got a mechanical engineering degree, and he started working for a company. And he's like, I thought you said mechanical engineering was a fun job, and I'm like, it is. Like, why don't you come by my shop for a couple weeks and just come check it out? He's like, man, I hate this. I want to go find a job somewhere else. And I said, okay, hey, I want you to 3D print this. He's like, I've never touched a 3D printer. So I kind of showed him what to do. And he's designing parts. He's just doing little changes on a parachute release system that we're working on. And once he saw that he can create something on his own, and he can make whatever he wants to make in the future, then he was like, okay, I need to get a different job, because the job that I'm working at, they're just having me change drawings of actual 2D drawings of simple parts and just changing numbers on them, just so that way it's easier for the machine to machine it out. I was like, wow, you're in the wrong spot. So
right.
It's funny how a lot of people think it's just one thing, that mechanical engineering is just this thing, and there's so many fun things you can do with it.
I feel like a lot of times people they paint themselves into a corner, and to me it seems that the skills that you learn in mechanical engineering or any other kind of engineering, they should be building blocks, just like what you should be doing with it, right? And you're developing this skill that will help you in certain ways, and then what is it that you want in life? And basically look behind, and whatever skills you've accumulated, you just sweep them all up in a pile, and you use that to get to your next level of whatever that is. And I feel that's what you're doing, right? And that's why you're moving from this spot to this spot to this spot, because you're taking a road, and then you're basically learning from it and using that. And there's two things: you're learning the skills, but it also is dropping you off into your next chapter.
Yeah, 100%. That's what for the very first job, I even would talk to my mom and be like, why am I shipping to this other company? My mom and dad would just be like, everything that you learned for the first company are the skills that you need for your second company. And then for this company, it's this. And it's funny because it completely goes against what I grew up to see my parents do. My parents run a paving company, and they've run it from the time they were 18, and they're still running it, and they're in their 60s. And they just always stuck with that. They didn't go to another job. They didn't get a new company. But my parents no, what your personality is different. You like to find a challenge. Once you've solved that problem, you want to go solve another problem. You don't want to just sit there and just do one thing. That's probably the biggest reason why I don't want to take over my father's company, is I know I could, but I don't want to do something that's already been done.
Right.
I want to do something
Explore
different.
new frontiers.
Yeah, it's just a lot of my friends are like, why don't you just take over your dad's company? No, he's successful. He's huge, and it's like, I don't want to be the kid that a company got handed down to me. I know it wouldn't be even then.
Right.
I've worked for my dad's company for 5 years, and that was definitely one of the hardest jobs. You have asphalt at 210 degrees to burn in your face, and while you're laying it all out. So yeah, I can imagine. That's actual work. Yeah,
that's actual work.
Yeah.
Before, so it just came to my attention recently. I've been a hyperactive person like you. I've had my hands in a lot of different things because somebody would come up to me with an idea and say, "Hey, Scotty, what do you think about this?" And I always I don't like to say no, right? Well, yeah, we'll figure out yeah, you know what? I know, maybe we can do this. And then I get excited and then we run out and, we start something. And then I've been doing that for a while, right? So I have a lot of people in my network that over the years I've either tried some kind of business with or they've, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I've always been referred to as a jack of all trades, but not in a positive way. Like, oh, you're just jack of all trades, master of none, right? And so I've always been like, yeah, but you know what? I don't care. People say, Scotty, if you want to be successful, sit your ass down, focus on one thing, get better at that one thing, and keep on going. And I have tried that. I'm wired differently. I'm wired like you, whether it's differently or not differently. I'm wired where squirrel, right? And then I get excited and I get passionate, and then it's like, all right, try to move that direction. Now that's got me into trouble a lot of times too, but then I realized that there's more to that quote: "Jack of all trades, master of none." But a jack of all trade will usually win over a master of one.
Yeah, I agree.
And I didn't know that last part. And I'm like, some bitch. So it's actually a good thing to be a jack of all trades. And then I have another friend. He's like, well, I'm a master jack of all trades. Because he does that. And it's just funny. But, so I guess people that are out there that are struggling. And sometimes, from my own personal experience, it is hard when you do a lot of different things because you're only doing this for a certain amount of time, but you got to make money. And if you're only doing this for a certain amount of time, it's kind of hard to be able to make money in a successful way, right? And then you go over here, and then you go over here, and then sometimes when there's problems, it's like problems all the way around, and you're here, and then you're just spinning, and nothing's getting done. So I've been in that situation many times. But I'm too hard-headed, I guess, to...
Well, that's the thing is, if you would have just focused on one thing, a lot of people say, oh, you'd be really successful, but you would have all this money, but would you be happy? That's kind of a lot of people think it's all about money, but it's not. It's about you enjoying what you do, and having fun with it. And if you can get by with, I've had times where I'm making really good money, and then, years that I'm not making good money. And it's like, you know what? I could go work at McDonald's and make better money than I'm making right now, because I'm working 80 hours a week. But if I enjoy it, and I like what I'm doing, and it's not about myself, it's about serving others as well, then it makes it all, worth the time.
Yeah, I agree. At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I could make more money if it was all about money. From the experiences that I've had, the people I know, I think I could make a lot of money. But I like doing whatever the hell I want.
Yep.
I like doing whatever the hell I want, and I either win or I fell on my own accord, and there's nobody else to blame.
Yeah.
It's all me. Now, that being said, everybody gets lucky. Everybody gets lucky or unlucky. You'll have luck, whether it's good or bad, that we don't know. But luck is a part in everybody's business. I firmly agree with that. But I think the more good that you do for people, the more of a goodwill bank is built up, for you. And I think that when you hit those hard times, there will be people there to help you or ease the burden or, whatever it is. And so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, but I wanted to get your viewpoint of how you look at life, how you engage, because a lot of people would say that being deaf is a disability, but I beg to differ. I think you're right. I think it is a gift.
Yes.
There are certain things that I could never do And it's like sometimes there's so much noise that it's hard to cut away, and so I guess it's on either way, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you want it to be more noisy, and a lot of times I want it to shut the hell up.
As far as like noise and stuff like that, another gift that a lot of people don't realize that I have with being deaf is, when you get those massive headaches and your eyes are hurting, you kind of have a migraine or something.
Oh
like
yeah.
that. Guess what? I can turn my hearing aid off, and just shut the world out and just go to sleep.
Wow. Wow, and it's quiet.
Yeah, and then
Real quiet.
my wife hates, the one thing that she hates about it is when we had, our kids, were first born. Anytime they would cry, she would spend more time waking me up to get the kids than she would just go and get the kids. It's like, so I thank my wife for that. My wife is awesome, and so yeah, it's just one of the things that I like about. I can just turn my hearing aid off if I have that really bad headache or something like that.
Yeah, that's great, man. The thoughts, so it's your attitude. Your attitude, I think, influences your thoughts.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then your thoughts, now that's where the rubber starts to meet the road, right? So that's going to create, or is it the other way around? Is it the thought that creates the attitude? Is it, there's that quote that says your thoughts become your attitude determines your actions basically make way to your character, and your character determines your destiny. But I don't know about that, because your attitude can also influence your thoughts.
Oh yeah.
Because that just now really hit me, because before it's like, well, no, your attitude or your thoughts create your attitude. But I guarantee that your attitude will also help create your thoughts.
That's what I grew up. My dad would always said your attitude affects all situations. So if you, I teach my kids, like, if you're upset about having to clean your room, just it's gonna take longer if you're upset about it. But if you have a good attitude about it, it speeds up your time. You have a good attitude. Try to look at it as a positive thing, and then it will get done quicker. So I always teach my kids that. So, and then I got that from my dad. So.
You have a good relationship with your dad?
Yes.
And your mom?
Yes. Yeah, great. Yeah, really good relationship with them. And then I have my older brother, my older sister, and then I have a younger brother. So I probably have the best relationship with my sister. She's like been always been there for me, especially like the years that I needed it most when I was going into high school. She was like 2 years older than me, so she would kind of like take me under her wing, and so yeah.
That's cool.
And then my brothers, they've always stood up for me. Like anybody. Actually, my older brother had a really good friend of his made fun of me. My brother turned around to punch him right in the nose. Just took him out right there.
Good for him. Good for him. So. It's important that siblings take care of each other.
Yeah.
I just had a situation yesterday with my daughter and the neighbor kid and my son, and I was telling him, you better take care of your sister. Like, no matter what. I don't care what, and anyway, that's probably, I don't know if that was the best thing to do or whatever, but I made sure that, because to me, siblings have always been a source of pride, right? And you mess with me, like, and you're bigger or whatever, then I got somebody that's gonna help me.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean my siblings are gonna beat somebody up or take advantage, or if somebody's like my size, they'd be like, no, handle your business. If you're gonna get your ass kicked, maybe you deserved it. Maybe you should keep your mouth shut and don't mouth off to people that are bigger and stronger and faster than you. But do you have kids as well?
Yeah, I have 2 kids. I have an 8-year-old son and then a 5-year-old daughter.
And do you think now, as far as your disability with raising your daughter and your son, does it get in the way sometimes, or?
Oh, 100%. They it's funny because they have to kind of explain, mom just told me this. I didn't know if you heard that, Dad. And so it's like their mom will say, "Hey, can you guys go do this?" And all of a sudden they're they're walking up the stairs, looking like they're playing, but they're supposed to be doing something else. But they're actually doing what their mom told them to do, and I'm like, "Hey, you guys gotta do this," and it's like, I'm saying, "Hey, you gotta do your duties, right?" But they're kind of like, they're in this awkward spot where they have to kind of speak up, learn to speak up and say, "Hey, Dad, Mom said we have to do this," even though I'm kind of like, kind of yelling at them, saying, "Hey, get to."
Yeah. Yep.
So it's kind of like they have to learn to step up and kind of just speak up to me and say, "Hey, Mom said to do this, so we're doing that, but I'll do what you told me to do after that." Or, "What do you want me to do, Dad?" And so it's like they're extra communicative with me, trying to explain. Especially now that we have a house with 2 stories, I didn't think that was a problem before. We had a 1-story house before. Now moving to a 2-story house, like, communication is a lot different. And so my kids learn how to be extra communicative, to me at least. Yeah, so that's one thing that it tripped them out. I do know that, and I always have to constantly say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't hear what your mom said, but just continue to talk to me." And so yeah, it's miscommunications that they have to clarify with me all the time. So
Yeah, and miscommunications, man, that can be there's some bad. I just had a miscommunication today. I was dealing with somebody and I was informed a certain thing, and without me going to look at it, I informed the other person with it. And it was wrong, and it ended up turning into a bad situation. We got it resolved because we had a good attitude, right? Yeah. And the attitude had the thoughts. Anyway, whatever. But it worked out. I can just imagine.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, you are somebody that people should hear about and hear from. Because I have noticed your attitude towards life just from the couple of dealings that we've had. And I'm very happy that you came over here to talk to me on this platform, on the podcast, and get your story out there. And if anybody else wanted to get in touch with you for any reason or way, how could they do that?
Yeah, they can contact me on my personal email. It's Glen, Glen, and the number 286 at AOL.com. And yeah, I'm still on AOL, but it's my first email that I've ever had, so it still works. That's my personal email, and yeah.
Glen286
at AOL.com.
At AOL.com.
Yeah.
And so you have a machine shop.
Yep.
So you do milling and then no injection molding stuff. So I'm going to talk to you about that before you leave. I have an invention that I need your help. I need to pick your brain. You do 3D printing. You used to build drones.
Yep.
You build parachute equipment for different payloads from governmental drones and whatnot. And right now you're selling ad space on different displays that are put up in different businesses or local businesses. People go and they're going to the bathroom, they taking a leak or whatever, and right in front of them is the, "Hey, go see All Magic Paint and Body to fix your accident," or whatever. And so you basically sell ad space on those displays.
So yeah, I work with the local businesses like Texas Roadhouse, Taco Fuego, Boca Wine. Those are some of the restaurants that I work with, and I set up a partnership with them, and I put the digital billboards in there. And then for the restaurant, I actually we work with restaurants from Norco Corona all the way out to Palm Springs. And so how we do that is we give the venues like free advertising. So it doesn't cost them any money for us to put the boards up. And then we advertise and we try to get partnerships between different restaurants or venues to try to work together and say, "Hey, let's cross advertise at both locations," to kind of help bring more traffic for both venues. And then the other thing is what I do, I forgot to mention, was the crypto mining.
Oh, that's right. No, you did mention that. I forgot to mention it. I forgot to remind everyone. And the crypto mining is something that you're just getting into that?
Yeah, I've been into that since February. So,
now this is blockchain stuff, or this is it you? Because I've read some of your Facebook posts, and it's like you're creating your own your own crypto, or is it
something we're kind of looking into?
Okay.
If nothing yet, the name of my mining company is called Deaf Monkey Mining. So,
I like it, man.
So
I often consider myself a deaf monkey. So.
So yeah, we've been doing crypto mining, but then also we're looking at different ways on how to mine different cryptocurrencies. So we're doing like graphic card mining, which you just buy a bunch of graphic cards, you put them online, and they make transactions, they verify transactions, and that's how they get paid. The other one is we're working on is helium mining. So it hooks up to your Wi-Fi router, and then you basically become a hotspot that talks to other hotspots to let people communicate through those. And then you get paid for that as well.
Interesting. What would be the purpose of that? Is basically creating another internet?
It's more like you know how like you have your humidity sensors and like weather stations.
Yeah.
Anything that kind of like uses the Internet of Things, it's called. So it's more like sensors that don't need straight internet connection, but they'll run on like a 915 radio frequencies. So instead of them paying the cellular companies, they'll pay my hotbots to connect and give information to their servers, and so more affordable for those companies that are making different sensors and stuff like that instead of working with the cellular companies. So then I'm creating hotbots throughout, Norco, Corona, as well, trying to build a network up.
How do people know that you're there?
That's a good question.
So that's what you got to figure out, I guess, more. So
Yeah,
then the more people know that you're there, the more people can basically log on, the more success you'll have in the...
Well, I guess to let people know where I'm at, I guess I can start putting my advertising on all the boards that I have.
Yeah, good point. There you go.
But that's kind of a new technology that we're working on.
So the Internet of Things, I just real fast before we close this thing down. Internet of Things. My other friend that does 3D printing and also robotics talks about the Internet of Things, and he's saying that it's not anymore just going to your computer and logging into the internet. If you have a lighter, the lighter is going to have a chip. The chip is going to be somehow connected to the internet where you can literally monitor how much butane is in your lighter, when it was lit, all of these different things, and every object that is around us for whatever reason will have a presence in the Internet of Things, and we'll be able to measure and reflect and create and do all this stuff without having to go to a keyboard or without, Is that how you're... am I understanding that right?
That's what it is. That's what I've been reading up on. And so this is just something that's brand new that we've been looking into. And we have a couple machines that are in motion. And so we're learning as we go and trying to figure out the best ways on how to implement that.
Got it. Well, as you find out, come on back and talk to us and let us know how things are going and if there's any other things that we can do to help, or just whatever. We're connected now, so we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to? If somebody's out there, maybe they're feeling insecure or overwhelmed or defeated, do you have any words of wisdom?
Yeah, don't be defeated. I know it's tough. Just know what you do is important. Know that God loves you. That's the most important thing to me. Is that you're worth it. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're beautiful. Just go for it.
That sounds like good advice. I'm glad I asked. Self-talk. So important.
Yeah.
But all right, Glenn. Thank you for coming to my podcast.
No, thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And everybody out there in podcast land, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a little bit since we've had a podcast, but for you, it's probably not, because you just have to hit next, right? Because it goes from 35. I think this is number 36. So we're moving. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. And until we meet again, sayonara.